Rachel stood near the bar, holding a glass of sparkling water, smiling politely as she listened to her co-workers talk about upcoming cases. The house was huge, modern, expensive, and full of Atlanta's elite. It was a party thrown by one of the firm's top executives, but Rachel had only recently joined. She was careful not to speak too much, careful not to seem too eager. She was just happy to be invited. The music thumped through the floor. Laughter floated through the room. She was just starting to relax when she saw James. Her husband, James, was pushing through the crowd with a tight jaw and fire in his eyes. He didn't stop to greet anyone. He didn't smile. He came straight for her. Before she could even say his name, his hand grabbed her wrist. "Are you serious right now?" he hissed. Rachel's face froze. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. "You were flirting," James said loudly, his voice cutting through the music. "With that junior partner? Do you think I'm stupid?" People were starting to turn. Conversations died. Someone turned the music down. "James, stop it," she whispered, eyes wide with panic. "You're making a scene, please." He yanked her arm. "Don't act innocent. Laughing like that. Tossing your hair? I've seen enough." "James, you're hurting me," she said softly. "I don't care. You're my wife and you embarrassed me." And just like that, he pulled her away from the group. Her co-workers watched in stunned silence. Rachel could feel every eye on her. Her face burned with shame. Then a voice came over the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome tonight's host, our very own Mr. Andrew Levy." There was scattered applause, but Rachel didn't hear it. Her ears rang as James dragged her toward the door. Her new boss, Andrew Levy, had just walked onto the balcony to give a speech, and he had seen the whole thing. Rachel looked back for just a second. Her boss's eyes met hers. Cold, confused, judging. And then she was gone, pulled into the night, her wrist aching and her heart sinking deeper than ever before. Cut to the next morning. Rachel sat at the kitchen table with her laptop open, quietly reading her work emails. The sunlight came through the window, but the house felt cold. Her hands trembled slightly as she clicked through unread messages, trying to stay calm. James walked in, still angry from the night before. "So now you're just ignoring me?" he snapped. Rachel didn't look up. "I'm just trying to get ready for work," she said softly. He laughed bitterly. "Of course. Work always comes first for you now, doesn't it? Not your husband. Not your family. Just your big, shiny job." Rachel closed her laptop and looked up. "James, last night was not okay. You embarrassed me in front of everyone. In front of my boss. You embarrassed me," he shot back. "You were laughing with other men like you were single. What was I supposed to do? Just stand there and watch?" "It was a professional event," she said, trying to stay calm. "I was networking. I was doing my job." James leaned over the table. "You've changed, Rachel. Ever since you went back to work, you think you're better than me." She didn't reply. There was no point. This had become a regular thing. 2 years ago, things were different. Rachel had taken almost 7 years off from law to raise their daughter, Lila. She had been the perfect stay-at-home mom. School pickups, lunch boxes, bedtime stories. James had always said how lucky they were to have her at home. He made the money. She took care of everything else. But when Lila turned 7, Rachel started feeling the pull again. She had worked so hard for her law degree. She missed the challenge, the purpose. She applied quietly, studied every night, and finally got hired as an associate at a respected firm. At first, James pretended to be proud, but that didn't last long. He didn't like that she came home late sometimes, or that she dressed up for meetings. He hated when she talked about the cases she was working on. Slowly, he started making sarcastic comments, checking her phone, asking where she was every hour. When Rachel got invited to help on a high-profile case, she was thrilled. It meant real recognition. Even better, her boss, Mr. Andrew Levy, had noticed her hard work. He told her he wanted to mentor her, said he believed she had the potential to become a partner in a few years. Rachel had never felt so hopeful. But James didn't celebrate with her. He called it just extra pressure. He said, "Don't forget who stayed by your side when you were just a mom with no paycheck." Now, after the scene he caused at the party, that chance at becoming something more was at risk. Rachel picked up her phone and checked her calendar. A meeting with Andrew in 2 hours. Her stomach turned. Would he still believe in her? Or had last night changed everything? She stood up and walked toward the bedroom, passing the family photos on the wall. One showed the three of them, her, James, and Lila, smiling at a park. She remembered that day. It felt like a different life. Inside the bedroom, she sat on the edge of the bed and took a deep breath. At work, she felt confident, smart, in control. But at home, she felt like she was shrinking. Lila's voice called from the hallway. "Mom, can you help me find my socks?" Rachel wiped her eyes quickly. "Coming, baby." She stood up, put on a smile, and walked toward her daughter's room. Because no matter what was falling apart around her, she still had to hold it together, for Lila. But deep inside, Rachel knew something had to change. She just didn't know how yet. Rachel sat in the waiting area outside her boss's office, her hands tightly holding a notebook she hadn't even opened. Her heart was racing. She had barely slept. The memory of last night played over and over in her head. James yelling, pulling her out of the party, all the eyes watching, her boss seeing everything. "Mr. Levy will see you now," the assistant said. Rachel stood up, took a deep breath, and walked in. Andrew Levy sat behind his large glass desk. He didn't smile. He didn't even stand. "Sit, Rachel," he said calmly. She sat. There was a long pause. He looked at his screen, then at her. "You're a strong associate," he said. "You've handled your recent caseload well. That's why this is disappointing." Rachel's mouth went dry. "I'm sorry," she said quickly. "I didn't know James would. He just showed up and..." Andrew raised a hand to stop her. "Let's not make this personal. This isn't about your marriage. It's about perception." She blinked. "Perception? This firm depends on trust and reputation. Clients talk. People observe. Your name came up in a conversation this morning. A client who was supposed to meet with you next week is being reassigned." Rachel's stomach dropped. "Wait, you're removing me from the case?" Andrew didn't answer right away. "We have to protect our image, Rachel." And frankly, it didn't look good. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. What could she say? That her husband had acted like a jealous teenager in front of lawyers and CEOs? That she was trying to fix things? "I understand," she whispered. Andrew gave a short nod. "Let's focus on getting things back on track. For now, we'll have you assist on a different case. Lower profile." Rachel tried to keep her face steady, but it was hard. All the hours she had worked, all the nights she stayed up reviewing files. And just like that, it was slipping away. The meeting ended quickly. No warm words. No advice. No mentorse. Back home, Rachel walked in the door quietly. James was on the couch, watching TV like nothing had happened. He looked up. "You gonna say sorry or what?" Rachel stood there in silence. He scoffed. "I stood up for our marriage, Rachel. If that embarrassed you, maybe you should think about your behavior." She didn't answer. She just walked past him, her body numb. She went into the bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed. Her phone buzzed. A message. It was from Maya, a junior associate at work. "Heard about last night. I'm sorry. You don't deserve that." Rachel stared at the screen for a long time. So they were all talking. Not about her skills. Not about her hard work. Not about her cases. About him. About that night. She wasn't being judged for who she was, but for what her husband did. For how he acted. For how he made her look. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she didn't cry. She was too tired. Too angry. Somewhere deep inside, something shifted. She had worked too hard for this. Given up too much. And now, because of someone else's temper, her future was crumbling. And James? He didn't care. Not about her job. Not about her reputation. Not even about the pain in her eyes. Rachel looked at her reflection in the mirror across the room. "I didn't deserve this," she whispered. But now she knew. No one was going to save her. If she wanted her life back, she'd have to take it herself. Rachel became quiet at work. Not the focused kind of quiet, but the distant, distracted kind. She stared at her computer screen for minutes at a time. She forgot to send a file before a meeting. She mixed up two clients' details in a call. Her coworkers noticed. Some were kind. Others were not. "She's not herself," one whispered. "She's slipping," another said. Rachel heard them, even when they thought she wasn't listening. At home, things were worse. James had become even more suspicious. One evening he stood in the hallway as she came in from work. You're late, he said, arms crossed. I had to stay for a call, Rachel said, hanging her coat. With Andrew? He asked, voice sharp. Rachel blinked. No. With a client. He snatched her phone before she could react and started scrolling. James, give it back, she shouted, reaching for it. Just making sure, he muttered. Rachel stood there, helpless. There was nothing inappropriate on her phone, but that didn't matter. He didn't trust her. And deep down she knew he didn't respect her either. The next week, she had to go to the office late to finish a file that had to be emailed before midnight. James offered to drive her, but she refused. She needed space. She reached the building around 9:30 p.m. and greeted the night security at the front desk. She worked in silence for an hour, trying to concentrate, when suddenly loud voices came from the lobby. Rachel Preston. Where is she? It was James. Security tried to calm him, but he was shouting. Rachel ran out. James, what are you doing here? I knew it, he said, eyes wild. You said you came to work, but I bet Andrew's here too, huh? Stop it. You're embarrassing me again, Rachel hissed, her face pale. A security guard stepped forward. Sir, you need to leave. Now. James pointed at Rachel. You think I'm crazy? Just wait. You'll see. I know what's going on. He stormed out. Rachel stood there frozen. The security guard looked at her gently. You okay, ma'am? She nodded slowly. Yeah, I'm okay. But she wasn't. The next morning, Rachel's mother came over to help with Lila. She took one look at Rachel's face and said, You're not sleeping. Rachel shrugged. Work's been hard. Her mother watched her carefully. You can tell me the truth. Rachel tried to smile. Everything's fine. No, it's not, her mother said softly. You've lost weight. You flinch when someone touches your shoulder. These bruises, she paused. They're not on your skin. But they're there. All over you. Rachel looked down at her hands. I can't just leave. Why not? Because of Lila. Because of the house. Because of my job. Because I still want to believe he can change. Her mother reached over and gently held her hand. You don't have to break everything to save yourself. Just stop letting yourself break, Rachel. Rachel didn't say anything. But her mother's words stayed with her. A few days later, Rachel got called into another meeting. This time, Andrew wasn't cold, but he wasn't warm either. He simply said, We've reassigned you again. You'll be supporting the new bankruptcy case. Rachel blinked. But I was supposed to lead the Parker client. Andrew nodded. Yes, but the optics aren't great right now. Clients talk. So I'm being punished again, she said flatly. It's not a punishment. It's a shift, he replied, like that made it better. She stared at him. So because my husband humiliated me, I get pushed aside? Andrew paused. It's not personal. But yes. Rachel laughed once. But there was no humor in it. Right. She stood up, gathered her things, and walked out of his office without another word. But her heart ached. She had tried so hard to keep her personal life from affecting her work. And yet here she was, treated like a liability. That night, she sat in the living room after Lila went to sleep. The house was dark and quiet. James was upstairs watching TV. She stared at the blank wall ahead of her, eyes heavy, body tense. For the first time, a thought whispered through her mind louder than ever before. This isn't love. This is a cage. She had been trying to protect her marriage, her daughter, her job. But no one was protecting her. Not her boss. Not her husband. Not even herself. And slowly, something inside her started to change. It wasn't rage, not yet. But it was the beginning of it. Rachel sat in her car in the office parking lot, holding her phone in one hand and the HR form in the other. Her fingers trembled slightly, but her mind was clear. She was done staying quiet. She took a deep breath, clicked submit, and filed a formal complaint, not just about the demotion, but about how she was being treated because of her personal life, how her boss, Andrew, had judged her not by her work, but by her husband's actions. It wasn't right, and she finally said so. By the next morning, whispers were already moving through the firm. People noticed. Some nodded quietly when she walked by. Some avoided eye contact. She didn't care anymore. What mattered was that someone finally listened. HR sent her an email that said, We are reviewing your complaint and have begun internal discussions. That was all. But it was enough to give her hope. Back home, everything exploded. James found out about the complaint when he saw a message on her phone. He was furious. "You reported your own boss?" he shouted. "What's wrong with you?" Rachel stayed calm. He was wrong. "You think you're some kind of hero now? After I've supported you all these years?" "You don't support me," she said quietly. "You control me." That was it. James lost it. He grabbed her laptop and threw it across the room. It hit the wall and shattered. "You're ruining this family," he screamed. From the hallway, a small voice called out, "Mom?" Rachel turned. Lila was standing there, wide-eyed, holding her teddy bear. Rachel's heart broke. That night, she called her sister. "Come get me." "Now?" her sister asked. "Now," Rachel said. 15 minutes later, headlights flashed outside. Rachel packed one small suitcase, grabbed Lila's school bag and walked out the door. She didn't say goodbye to James. She didn't even look back. She stayed at her sister's house that week. It wasn't easy. Lila asked questions. Rachel cried silently some nights. But she felt safe. Really safe. For the first time in years. Then came the twist no one expected. One afternoon, HR called her in for a follow-up. She sat across from two senior people she hadn't met before. "We want to thank you, Rachel," one of them said. "For what?" she asked, confused. "Your complaint led us to do a full review. Turns out, your situation wasn't the only one. Several other women shared similar experiences. Subtle bias, demotions after maternity leave, overlooked for promotions." Rachel blinked. "What does that mean?" "It means Mr. Levy is stepping down," the woman said. "Effective immediately." Rachel was speechless. "We'd also like to offer you your previous role back. But more than that, we'd like you to lead a new division. You'll have your own team. The firm needs a change, and we believe you can help lead it." Rachel sat still for a long moment, her heart pounding. It was everything she had worked for, everything she had dreamed of, but it came with a strange feeling, sadness. Because none of this erased what she had lost. Her marriage was broken. Her daughter had seen too much. Her heart had been hurt in ways no job could fix. But she nodded slowly. "Thank you," she said. "I accept." She walked out of that meeting into the fresh air, her phone buzzing in her pocket. It was James. Again. She let it ring. Then she turned it off. This chapter was over. And a new one was just beginning. Rachel moved into a small, quiet apartment with Lila. It wasn't fancy. The kitchen tiles were old, the paint on the walls was plain, and there was only one bathroom. But it was theirs. It was peaceful. No yelling. No walking on eggshells. Her mother helped unpack boxes. Her sister brought over groceries and new curtains. Lila picked a corner by the window and called it her reading spot. Slowly, piece by piece, they made the place feel like home. Rachel took time off from work for a few days. She needed to breathe. She went to her first therapy session. Unsure of what to expect, she sat on a small couch, looked at the floor, and said quietly, "I don't even know who I am anymore." The therapist smiled gently. "That's okay. We'll figure it out." Each week, Rachel got a little stronger. She started saying no. To things, to people, to pressure. And for the first time, she didn't feel guilty about it. The court hearing started soon after. Her lawyer came prepared. With printed text messages, screenshots of controlling comments, call logs, even security footage from the night James showed up at her office. It was all there. All the ways he had tried to control her, make her small. James stood in court, still acting like he was the victim. But the judge saw the truth. Rachel was granted temporary full custody of Lila, while the trial continued. When the judge said those words, Rachel finally let out a breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. At work, things changed too. Her new team respected her. She led with clarity, listened to others, and never raised her voice. She didn't need to. People followed her because they wanted to, not because they were afraid. One afternoon, she opened her work email and saw a name she hadn't expected. Andrew Levy. The subject line was blank. She clicked it. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry." That was it. She read it once. Then hit delete. No reply. She didn't need his words to feel whole. She had already started healing without them. Lila thrived in the new place. She made new friends. She drew pictures and taped them to the fridge. Rachel would come home from work and sit with her at the table while they both did their homework. Lila's spelling sheets and Rachel's case files. Their life was simple, but it was free. One night, Rachel stood on the small balcony with a cup of tea in her hands. She looked out at the quiet street below, lights glowing from other windows. Her phone buzzed, but she didn't check it right away. It could wait. She had built something new. Not perfect, but hers. And for the first time in a long time she felt strong. Lila came running through the front door, her school bag bouncing on her back and a paper in her hand. "Mom, look what I made today," she said, holding up a colorful drawing. Rachel dried her hands on a towel and took the picture gently. It showed 3 stick figures standing in front of a small house with flowers. One figure had brown hair like Rachel. One had 2 ponytails like Lila. The third? There wasn't one. "This is you," Lila said, pointing. "And this is me. And that's our house. I made it pretty." Rachel looked at the drawing, then at her daughter's face. Lila added softly, "This is our new family." Rachel's heart swelled, not with sadness, but with something warm and full. She pulled Lila into a hug. "It's perfect," she whispered. That night, after dinner and bedtime stories, Rachel tucked Lila into bed. She kissed her forehead, turned off the lamp, and watched her daughter fall asleep within minutes. Safe, peaceful, loved. Rachel stepped out onto the balcony with a blanket around her shoulders. The night was calm. The city lights blinked in the distance, and a soft breeze touched her face. She thought about everything she had been through. The pain, the fear, the doubt. The way people judged her. The way she had judged herself. Yes, she had lost things. Her marriage. Her home. Parts of herself she thought would never come back. But she had gained more. She had peace. She had strength. And most of all, she had Lila. Rachel looked up at the sky and whispered to herself, "I survived." She paused, then smiled. "And I'm just getting started." Hey besties. Sparkling Heart, thanks so much for watching till the very end. You're the real MVPs. Don't forget to like, drop a comment, and hit that subscribe button for more powerful stories. See you in the next one. Bye. Waving hand sparkles.